Hello guys and welcome to Chelsea Perspective member videos. It's your host Matt back again, and we are here to discuss a topic that I didn't have planned. This is not part of the schedule that I had planned, but I thought that we would have a little discussion kind of off the scripts, not really going on about and talk about an issue that I think it's been plaguing Chelsea for years, and it's frustrated me for a long time. It's frustrated a lot of Chelsea fans now, and there was a bit of topic about it. I did speak about this on Chelsea Fan TV. If you didn't check it out, my fan cam after the Ghent game was great. It was a great game to watch, but some frustrations that I made completely aware. And that issue is the title of the video: why do Chelsea concede so many goals from open play crosses and set piece goals? For me, it seems that nearly every goal we concede, I'd say at least, I haven't looked at the stats to look at them. I should have really looked for all the goals, but there you go. I feel like 60 to 70% of our goals that we concede either come from a set piece, free kick or a corner, not including penalties, or a cross into the box. Whether that's after a corner in the second phase or whether it's just open play completely. We just seem to have no ability to defend crosses, and we concede so many goals from it. I think it's an issue for me. If we could fix this issue, we don't concede nowhere as near as many goals as we are. And if we do not concede nowhere near as many goals as we are, I think that projects us to be a team that is not just fighting for top four, but potentially could fight for the title. There's been a lot of things that are going much better for Chelsea. We're starting to score a lot more goals now. Whether that carries on for the long term or whether this is a short period where we're just doing very well and got that front is a question, but we'll have to wait and see. But it's the goals conceding that is really letting us down at the moment. I mean, even the results, some of our better results. Wolves 6-2, we still conceded 2 goals. Brighton conceded 2 goals. Even Ghent conceded 2 goals, even though we were in quite cruise control. We've conceded vital goals against Palace. We've conceded vital goals against Forest, especially the Forest one. Again, that was the thing that made me really want to do this conversation with you guys. Of why this happens, and what we're going to do is we're going to go through kind of little points of what are the problems, what can we do, and just busted a few myths, because there's a lot of people talking and blaming one particular party or whatever. And I just want to start with that first of all. So you get a lot of people that go, oh, it's solely down to individual players. It's Badia Shield's fault. It's Fofana's fault. It's Disasi's fault. Whoever. Normally, it's a flavour of the week that someone wants to blame. Usually, the person that naturally is the blame of the goal at the time, which of course for that specific goal they are potentially to blame. But it's not just down to the players. If for me, I look at it and go, if nearly all of the players are having the same problem and making the same mistake, it's not that down to the players by themselves. Equally, it's also not down purely to the manager, because this is an issue that we had arguably started creeping in at the back end of Tuchel, was very much here with Potter, very much here with Poch, and still here with Maresca. And even thinking back to kind of Lampard both spells and even to a point Sarri's spell, we still had similar problems that were again creeping in, and sometimes they'd be quite bad and sometimes they would not be so bad, so it kind of fluttered a little bit and then spells. But this has been a problem that's gone on for ages and it's through multiple managers, so it's not down to any particular manager personally. So I think there is a whole realm of different reasons why this is happening. For me, I think when this issue persists for this long, it's down to a multitude of reasons, and you can target one specific reason, but if you don't target all the reasons, you're still going to have the same problem. It might improve maybe for a short period of time, but you're never going to get down to the crux of the problem. So that's why I think it's silly to just chastise one particular player or a small group of players, or just go, oh, look, Maresca can't defend corners. I mean, we've got new set piece coach from Brentford, Brentford had really good set pieces. He's come in, and so far nothing's changed. Obviously, he hasn't been here too long, so maybe that will improve over time, and we do have to give it a bit of time, but that's not improving. So we need to have a look at this in a more broader perspective. I mean, first, I'm going to explain, before we get into the reasons for kind of poor heading in terms of the heads itself, I want to talk about crosses, guys, because everyone naturally talks about the heading aspect. But I look at crosses, we're so... I find it sometimes criminal how, and the way I described it on Chelsea Fan TV, is we're so allergic. It's like an allergic reaction to defend a cross. Our fullbacks, our wide players, even our centre mid players that go out wide, none of them want to actually put a foot in. They just let the cross go in. And it's that aspect of, if you defend the cross there and then, of course it may go out for a corner anyway, and the cross still might come in. But if we defend that cross at that point, at the start, the cross doesn't come in, and the poor heading doesn't need to be exposed as much. It's the root of the cause. It's like kind of cancer. You treat the symptoms, but if you don't look for prevention for any disease, that you're still going to get people that are going to be ill and going to die from it. And that in a similar way, we're not preventing the crosses from coming in. We're allowing so many crosses coming in. So if you allow such a high velocity of crosses coming into the box, of course you're going to look at the stats and go, we're conceding a lot of goals from this. Well, of course, if you're allowing so much, eventually even the teams that are not great at attacking set pieces are going to eventually score, just by the idea of probability. So I think that's something we really need to focus on, which I'll speak a little bit later. What are the reasons to consider when talking about poor defending for these headers and corners and crosses and whatever? And I think a problem that has been targeted, I think, this summer, but was massively a problem last season, and that was, in particular the season before, that is a lack of height in the squad. And if you look at the players, obviously counting out goalkeepers, because goalkeepers are naturally always, I think Jorgensen's the lowest at 6'3", which is fine. And Robert Sanchez is 6'6". So goalkeeper is not a problem, but with defenders, there's a lot of players that are quite short. Obviously, you've got your centre back, your Disassis 6'3", Badia Shield 6'4", Levi Cole 6'2". Obviously, you had Silva there last season, who was under 6 foot. And obviously, Tosin has come in 6'5", but is on the bench, not always playing, especially in the Premier League games. You've got Reece James is out, is 6 foot, and his replacement Gusto is 5'10", so it goes down to that. You've got Cucurella on the other side, who I believe he's 5'8", so he's very small. Not going to be good at headers at all. But I think the midfield is where it is the big problem, particularly with our starting midfield. If you look at it, you've got Caicedo who's 5'10", Enzo Fernandez is 5'10". Palmer is the biggest at 6'2", but obviously he's more on the attacking aspect. There is a problem. You've got obviously the wingers. You've got Mudryk is 5'9", which obviously you expect wingers to be smaller. But you've got Pedro Neto 5'8", Madueke's a bit taller, 6 foot, João Felix 5'11", and Cuckoo 5'10", Jadon Sancho 5'11". Even Jackson as a forward, and he's the taller forward, he's only just 6'1", so he's not massively tall. Even Casadei, who is really described as our big player in midfield, is 6'1" as well. Romeo Lavia was 5'11", so you can see when you look at that there is a lack of height in certain areas, and obviously that is going to affect us on the pitch itself. Obviously that the club have tried to help that. Obviously, as I said, you've got Tosin, who's 6'5", perfect for that, but he's not starting at the moment. You've got Fofana, who, of course, is one of our taller centre backs, but he's got an injury issue. So naturally, for him, jumping at the moment is not going to be one of his strongest points. That's going to be something that's going to take a bit more time to get back. So you can understand he might be a bit weak with his heading. Benoit Badiashile has just not looked the same with heading at the moment, and I think that's a different issue with him in general. I think it's confidence. I think it's confidence with him. He's making a lot of mistakes, but obviously that's your big player, other big centre back that is struggling with confidence and therefore affecting this game. They have brought in Renato Vega, who is obviously 6'3", can play in midfield, can play at left back, which significantly increases the height of the side and does help. Obviously, Reece James coming back will help potentially with the height as well. But ultimately, there is not a lot there. I think for me, it's one of these aspects of I would like to change a little bit in that midfield. I think if we get rid of someone, I'm not going to mention names because that's just going to get into a whole different topic. But if you bring in a bit more of a destroyer, I mean, my ideal would probably be someone like Tchouaméni, who I'm actually going to look up now to see how big he is. But I'm sure he is huge. Height in feet. This is where I'm going to look at it and go, oh no. 6'2". So he's 6'2", so he'll be one of our bigger midfielders. Obviously, still not huge, not at basketball player. I mean, my ideal would have been Onana, who's gone to Aston Villa. He's an absolute baller, but he's also a basketball player almost in terms of height. Towers over players, and I think that's the sort of aspect. Obviously, we've got that with Renato Vega a little bit, but as a starting midfield, I think we do maybe need to have a look at that and see if that will help us. And obviously, take out one of Caicedo or Fernandes, really, and that's the midfielders you're kind of targeting. Whoever you want to is another question. I'm not going to get into that now. But that's the height, lack of height. Next is tactical setup, and now we can talk about kind of zonal. Do you like zonal marking, which is where you mark the little zones? Do you like man marking, which speaks for itself? You mark your man. At the moment, Chelsea and most teams, to be fair, operate this sort of hybrid system where you have some players in different zones of the box, but then you have a specific few players that mark individual men. And that, I feel, can work, but it's something I feel can be easily exploited. I always feel, for me, man marking has always been my go-to, because it relies on each individual person to do their job, but for me it simplifies things, because in zones, I feel if you have a player that's outside the box and runs into that zone to make the header, of course with them running in and making that jump, they're going to be able to jump higher than you, because you're in a more obviously you're going to be on your feet and on your toes, but he's coming with speed, so he's going to be able to leap higher than you. And that's where I feel zonal marking, while it has its benefits in terms of each zone is marked and whatever, I just don't feel it works. And I think, particularly with these sort of things, the players that play in the hybrid zonal market are usually the players that are not that great with the ball at the head. That's why you naturally put your Tosins, your Badiashiles, certain other players potentially, some of your more faster players that can keep up with the players that are running, on the man marking so they can run in and take their men. But naturally, the zonal part, you'll have more your smaller midfielders, which doesn't really work. And for me, I think if I was me, I'd go back to man marking. But obviously, most managers do the zonal man marks. You've got to kind of work the system, and maybe for me, I think maybe it's tweaking certain players here and there to see how it fits altogether. I think you need to maybe change players, maybe put some players into the man marking, maybe tweak it so you have more man markers and less people in zones, whatever. I do find nowadays no one's on the front or back post anymore, and I see so many goals and headers go near the back post and front post. You think if someone was there, they'd just be able to clear it, but that's modern tactics. And I think especially I don't mind the modern tactics in terms of progressive style of play, playing out and back, I find corners is just generally there is a decrease in defending at the moment, and it is what it is. The third reason and thing to consider with these poor defending, I think for me, I think this is probably a bigger problem out of all of them, and that is lapses in concentration. I think so many of these players, and this is where you can understand in certain cases why it affects more players than just one particular player, and that is just a bit more mentality. And obviously, these players are all quite young, apart from Tosin, who's 27. They're all quite young players, so it's understandable that when they go through games coasting, are comfortable, they will just lose focus, especially when you in the Genk game, when you're winning and you're going and you're cruising a game. You just have we just seem to have these lapses of concentration, and then teams go on to score, and obviously then we fire up and we're back at it. But in some games, when it's fine margins in games, that can be just too late. You need to focus, and you need to make sure that you're on it. And I feel some of these players, I think Badiashile is probably the main guy that I look at, but Levi Colwill can do it as well, both in crosses and open play defending. They just lose concentration. It's so frustrating. I think for a manager, it's not something you can necessarily teach. It just comes with experience. Obviously, you can work on trying to increase their focus, and of course that will help. But I think concentration is lapses is the reason, because I think it's not. While we all feel nervous at every cross, it's not every cross that goes in. If like 90% of crosses that come into the box were going in, then that's more. You can point that to more system problem. If it's 10, 20, if it's 30% of them going in, but you're getting so many crosses in, that's where you can understand the lapse of concentration and maybe the fatigue of constantly doing the same thing, and you just eventually you're going to get one wrong. But that's where I say that we need to stop the crosses coming in, which is that's kind of the reasons. I think when we need to look at these, I think effectively I've listed down four pillars, like a temple. You have different pillars and they hold up the temple. If you knock one of them pillars down, the whole thing crumbles. If you only fix one or two up, the whole thing crumbles. So I think to fix this overall issue, we need to defend the crosses better. We need to address the lack of height in the squad, which I will say is the one that I feel is being done and has probably been done to an extent. I think maybe a little bit more in the next window might be done to try and help that. But I don't think that pillar is the massive issue at the moment. I think that's been largely fixed, and I think maybe if Tosin comes in the starting lineup, that will help us a little bit more and increase the height a little bit. Thirdly, tactical setup. We need to have a look, and that's where the set piece coach needs to really grain in and just look to see if there is any issues within the setup that is particularly causing repetitive issues. Obviously, of course, players can make mistakes, and you have to account for just mistakes in general to individual players. But if you see a pattern emerge, that's where you can need to change the system. And I think that's where Chelsea needs to look, and the set piece coach needs to do his homework and look at all these goals that we see. And even in training, just practice set pieces and see where, because you'll find if you do practice loads of set pieces in training, you'll be able to pick the errors out there, because it's systematic going over and over and over again, and you'll be able to look at it a bit more focused and a bit more specific. And then the concentration lapses. It's just the players need to just focus on the game, focus on every moment, not let yourself lose. And that's where you need to install. I think our mentality is getting better. I think we're starting to get a never say die attitude. We're not just conceding the goal and going, oh, game over. We're actually fighting back. We've got a bit more fight in us, a bit more fighting spirit, and you can see that with the game when the Forest scuffle and a few players going in and defending each other, apart from Palmer, that just love it. I loved it. He just sat there, was like, well, I'm not bothered. But that's a different sort of mentality with Palmer there. But our mentality is getting better, but I think it still needs to improve in certain ways. And I think until you fix these 4 issues, it's not going to change. So, guys, that is the end of the video. Let me know if you think I've missed anything in terms of particular reasons. Of course, I've not picked out any individual player as a sole reason. I'm not going to do that. So I don't really need that in the comment section. But if you think I've missed anything in terms of tactical setup that you maybe want to highlight a bit more, or if there's something, if there's another pillar that I've completely missed, and even my supreme tactical knowledge is not going to help us at the moment, and that tempo is still going to fall, please do let me know in the comment section. But thank you all for listening to what has been a wonderful video on Chelsea Perspective. Make sure that you obviously, of course, spread the membership. Any friends that you've got that want to listen to great content, please just get them to sign up for the membership. It's not very expensive at all. Of course, cost of living, so obviously if you can't give, it's fine, not a problem. But it's a way to get great content, and obviously Twitter and all that has so many rubbish opinions and so much rubbish on there. And I think Chelsea Perspective has got a very good set of footballing knowledge for you guys to have. So make sure you spread the word, get the membership going, and as we get the membership going up, we'll be able to have a lot more great conversations, and we're able to interact with you a lot more, which we are planning for the future. So we'll see you next week on another episode of Chelsea Perspective membership page. Goodbye to you all.